Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Megan with Wild and Wonderful Farm. I am a year 3 cut flower farmer in Ohio Zone 6A, and today I want to talk to you about the 5 biggest mistakes I made when I was starting my flower farm and how you could potentially avoid making the same mistakes. I hope the little mic isn't too distracting for you guys because I think they're hilarious and I wanted to use it. Anyway, so did I make more than 5 mistakes throughout my flower farming journey? Absolutely. Absolutely I did. But that would be too long of a video. So what I did is I wrote down a list of common mistakes that I see flower farmers make when they're first starting out, and I picked 5 most common. If you can avoid these common pitfalls, then you will be light years ahead of where I was when I first started. So let's get into it. Mistake number 1, not having a customer. If you're growing flowers, even the most beautiful, perfect, gorgeous flowers in the whole world, if you don't have anyone to sell them to, then what you have is an expensive garden, not a flower farm. Now, I completely understand wanting to have a handle on and mastery of growing the flowers themselves before you officially launch your business. That's not what I'm talking about. If you're deciding that you want to sell your flowers before you're planting your crops, before you're buying your seeds and your bulbs and your whatever you're going to invest on in this business, you need to know where you are going to sell these flowers. Now, whether it be a roadside stand, a farmer's market, in some kind of brick and mortar store, if you're going to do bouquet subscriptions, if you're going to sell directly to florists, sell wholesale, any of these options, there's no wrong answer. You can do multiple of these, and I do actually recommend having multiple sales avenues, but you should already have this in your mind before you put your first seed in the ground. Now, for this problem, I recommend having a plan A and a plan B, and sometimes a plan C and D too. But an example of this is for my tulips. Tulips are a high cost, there's small profit margin, so what you don't want to do is buy all these tulip bulbs and not have a way to sell these gorgeous flowers. So my plan A with my tulips is offering a tulip bouquet subscription that people can purchase and have multiple bouquets as part of that subscription. So that is plan A. Plan B is tulip pop-up bouquet bars. A lot of times I do this, very popular for Easter, because that's right mid-April. I'm like drowning in these gorgeous tulips. So another example of this plan A and plan B setup that I have is I make the bulk of my sales either directly through my website or at the farmers markets that I attend. Now, I guess I'm just getting so good at growing flowers that my flower production is exceeding what I am bringing to market. So during the 2025 season, I did a Tuesday farmers market and a Friday farmers market. And what I was finding is that the production of my flower fields was exceeding those 2 markets. Like, I could have added a 3rd market. So what I did when I had an excess of flowers that were ready to go, I would do a pop-up tent, porch, roadside, not technically roadside, but set up at my house, where I would have bouquets out on a Saturday or a Sunday, and I would advertise them on social media. Now, that was kind of a band-aid solution for this. This upcoming year, I will be looking at either adding a 3rd farmers market, which I don't know, because farmers markets are so labor intensive, and it's so much time away from the farm that You really have to be good at planning your work around being awake for so long. Or I will be trying to explore selling to florists, selling wholesale. So I'm still deciding what route I'm going to take. Use what you have available to you. If you live on a high traffic spot where there's tons of visibility, a roadside stand might be perfect for you. If you like going to market, if you like the socialization and the experience of that, then maybe that's for you. If you want to do more remote sales, if you want to advertise via a website and offer your bouquets for delivery, there's no wrong answer. There's only what will work best for you. So the number 2 mistake on my list: incorrect harvesting and conditioning. With this, I'm going to talk about the 3 rights of harvesting and conditioning. The first right is the right time to harvest. Most flowers want to be harvested in the coolest parts of the day. For me, ideally, the early morning when they're nice and hydrated in the field, or later in the evening when it's cooled off a bit. Now, some flowers you can get away with harvesting at any time of day. Like when I think of something like statice, I could pick statice whenever and it would look the same and perform the same no matter what. So considering these things helps you plan what are your priorities for harvesting. Something like basil, which is such a diva. You want to make sure that you are prioritizing harvesting that in the cool of the day. The second right of harvesting is harvesting at the right stage. So when I talk about that, is certain blooms need to be harvested when fully mature and completely open, and with pollen exposed. When I'm thinking of something like that, I'm thinking of yarrow. If you are picking yarrow when it is too immature, then it will wilt on you. And you don't want that. You don't want droopy yarrow. One of the biggest offenders I see for incorrect stage of harvest when I look at like social media pictures of beginner flower farmers or people that are starting to sell their flowers is incorrect harvest for dahlias. So what I see in these pictures are dahlias that are too old. They are too old. You should not be selling them. They have their centers open. They have pollen exposed. They have petals that have started to age. One of the biggest tells with dahlias are, you look at their back petals. If they have started to wilt, if they have started to brown or discolor, that dahlia is too old, and it will really not have a good face life at all. Now, if this sounds kind of overwhelming, maybe limit the number of crops that you are starting off with. And as maybe you want to start with 5 types of flowers, enough that you can have some variety and make a full beautiful bouquet. And as you master the growth and harvest and post-harvest care of those flowers, then you start to expand, or jump right in, whatever feels good to you. The third right I want to talk about is the right post-harvest solution and conditioning. Now, when I'm talking about the solution, I'm talking about, are you adding anything to your water? Should you add anything? When I talk about conditioning, I mean the time that you allow the flowers to sit in this water that you have added things to, how long you let it sit in there, and at what temperature and in what environment do you allow these flowers to sit in. So for post-harvest solution, I use 2 things. I use a CVBN tablet, which is basically almost like a chlorine tablet. I mentioned it in my Dahlia 101 growing dahlia videos, and it helps control bacterial growth in your water that you have your flowers in. So some flowers especially are considered dirty flowers, where they have a lot of bacterial growth in their water, and it essentially shortens their vase life. So I use that for bacterial growth control, and I also use Chrysol Professional 2 solution. So the CVBN are actually also Chrysol brand, but the Chrysol Professional 2 is a solution that helps the flowers and foliage hydrate, and it also provides them with a little bit of nutrients, some sugars, so that they have a little bit of food that helps them look vibrant and hydrated longer. Are either of these solutions absolutely necessary? No. You can grow and sell flowers without it. I decided for my personal business that I want to provide the highest quality flowers that I can that will have the best performance for my customers. And I want to follow industry standards for how to achieve those things. So that is simply what I do so that my customers have the best base life possible. Okay. Was 100% optional. It is just something that I decided I wanted to do. The other thing we're talking about when we're talking about conditioning is the length of time and where you are placing these flowers in order to condition them. So as a general rule of thumb, I do a minimum of about 6 hours to 24 hours conditioning on most of my flowers. Some flowers, you can cut them, stick them in a bouquet, sell them right away, and they will be fine. No issues. But not all flowers. Some big culprits that come to mind are things like basil, sometimes anise hyssop, yarrow. Even though you're trying your best to pick these at the coolest part of the day, to pick them at the correct stage of harvest, but sometimes they will wilt on you. So giving those a long conditioning window, and a lot of times with basil, they will wilt and then they will bounce back. So if I cut it and I leave it in this conditioning solution and I come back the next day, they're ready to go. They look amazing, but some will wilt and not come back. So you want to have them, you want to be sure that they are going to be high quality and look nice for your customer. So a long conditioning window just helps you ensure that. It's like an insurance policy for you. As far as the environment that you want to condition your flowers in, a cool area in your home is great, away from direct sunlight. Some flowers do benefit from conditioning in a cooler if you have the luxury of having a cooler. I invested in a cooler last year and I'm very happy. I have found multiple uses for this cooler throughout the growing season. So now, all of this probably sounds like a lot you need to know to master harvesting and conditioning flowers. So what I am going to recommend, which is something that I found on YouTube recommended, I think the first person that I heard talk about this book was Nicole from Flower Hill Farm. Love her channel. She gives out so much great information and she's just super fun to listen to and watch her videos. But she talked about this book, which is Specially Cut Flowers by Alan Armitage and Judy Loshman. And this book, it has basically every flower or foliage that you would want to grow. It has so much great information. It has information about starting the flowers, growing them on, field production, issues that you might encounter, harvesting stage, post-harvest conditioning. Really, so much great information in this book. I think I searched his name, and he has his own website. I think I bought it directly from his website. I do remember it being on the pricier side. This is such an amazing reference for a flower farmer that it is worth it. It is worth investing in something that is going to improve your business. So I also recommend this, and I will try to look up his website where he sells this, and I'll try to put the link in the comment for you guys if anyone's interested. I know we're all on budgets, but there's a literal wealth of information in that book. So I recommend it. I reference it all the time because sometimes I forget, when was I supposed to pick Nigella? The questions that come up. That book has the answers. All right, you guys, that was a long one. You might even have forgotten what this video was about because that section was so long. But we're talking about the 5 biggest mistakes. Mistake number 3 that I made, and I see so many beginning flower farmers make, it's underpricing. Okay, we've all been there. Starting your flower farm, I feel like we all suffer from like imposter syndrome a little bit, or self-doubt. I know when I was starting out and I was trying so hard to grow everything perfectly, I was still worried that my flowers just weren't as good as something that people could buy from, this store or that store, or like big farms that have been around for so long. I was like, oh, well, I shouldn't charge what they charge because, I'm just starting out, and I'm probably, my flowers just probably aren't as good. The more knowledge I acquired and the more I looked around at other people's flowers, my flowers were amazing. My flowers were better than their flowers in a lot of cases. They were great flowers, and I should have been charging what they were worth. So the last thing I want to say about underpricing is you want to sell the flowers for what they are worth and covering your expenses and labor. So if you're doing market research and you're seeing in that your area that you're going to be able to sell your flowers for like $15, and that's what's competitive in your area, then you need to make your bouquet that is worth that amount of money. You're not going to put 20 stems of Lysianthus in that bouquet, because if you can't charge the price that they're worth, then it doesn't make sense for you to sell that bouquet. You want to make, let's say, a $12 value of flowers, and then the other $3 is you charging for your labor and your expenses and your supplies. Just be smart about it, because if you aren't good about doing things like this early on, you will not be profitable and you will probably lose money. Okay. Mistake number 4 is also in the realm of finance, and I was so guilty on this count. It is not tracking expenses. So my first year is when I did the worst for this. So I saved my receipts. I went back and I was able to see all my purchases. But I did this at the end of the year. And when I saw that number of what I had bought for my flower farm, I about fainted. Okay. All these things, they add up. There are so many costs with farming, especially since I was just starting and there were so many things that I was buying for the first time, soil amendments and fertilizers and tools and treatments for any issues that come up, netting, and there's so many things that you can buy and just dig yourself a deeper and deeper hole. So, and that's not even to mention your annual expenses, not these one-time purchases, which will hurt when you get them, but then they'll last forever. Things like your seeds, your bulbs, your plants, things that might be reoccurring costs every year, they add up quick. Okay, that's what I'll say about that. Now, 2 recommendations I will make to address this problem is: 1, separate your business finances from your personal finances. So when I was first establishing my flower farm, I was able to do so because I was using my nursing income to basically build up my flower farm. Okay. And it wasn't until when I was going through all my expenses at the end of the year that I was like, oh, I am way in the red. Okay. Nobody starts on the top. You work your way up, but being smart about your expenses and tracking properly will give you so much of an advantage. The other thing I would recommend is track as close to real time your income and expenses as possible. So bare minimum for myself, I'm going to make myself do monthly check-in, where at the end of each month I am looking at my income and expenses. I'm checking the balance. I'm going to check the balance to make sure that I don't get too out of hand. Okay. All right, guys, the last mistake on this list that I'm going to talk about is not differentiating yourself from your competition. So depending on where you live, there may be a lot of flower florists, backyard farmers that are selling their flowers as well. You may be facing some pretty steep competition. So you want to carve out your own niche. The more that you can have a solid grasp on your brand's identity and your goals as a business, the better that you can carve out your own slice of the pie. I find in general it is so much better to have a cooperative, encouraging relationship between other local flower farmers. Share knowledge, share hardships. They're not, as much as they're your competition, they're also a person that shares the same hopes and dreams as you. So there's kinship to be found within the flower community, and you can see that on YouTube. There's so many warm, loving people that are open and generous with their knowledge and experience. So I'm not saying they're not the enemy, but you should focus on what do you bring to the table that is unique. When you're navigating this issue, go ahead, make a list of who sells flowers in your area. Where can your ideal customer go to buy flowers other than you? Okay, in my area, let me see what I wrote down. I wrote some of the local flower providers some of the local flower providers in my area. Some people offer U-picks. That is not an option for me, and it's not something I'm interested in pursuing really right now. Because I have a micro farm, and I don't have, and I have dogs that don't like people. So, U-picks, there's a lot of local farm stands. So farmers that primarily sell vegetables but also sell some flowers as a side hustle, and then things like grocery stores. Now there are a few specifically flower farms that sell specialty flowers similar to me, but they are fewer and farther between. Okay, and there's definitely enough demand for flowers that we're not really in direct competition. So when I look at that, how can I differentiate myself from the local farmer who grows flowers on the side, or the U-picks, or the grocery store? And a lot of times it's the type of flower and how those flowers are handled that are going to make a huge difference. So, a lot of the U-picks might do things like the cosmos, the zinnias, the sunflowers, the very low maintenance flowers that are beautiful. You can have people come in, hack away at them, and it's fine. Now, if I grow those same flowers, I am going to be growing specific varieties and color schemes and arranging them in an artistic way that differentiates what I do from those businesses. I am going to harvest those flowers at the perfect stage and condition them in the best way so that they have the best vase life. So even if I'm growing the exact same thing, I am going to try to grow it the best. So that's just one way that I try to differentiate myself. The other thing is growing the unique flower, growing the flower that you don't see or that you can't see in the grocery store, flowers that don't tolerate shipping. When I grew Nigella, it was the first time I saw Nigella, and I love it. It is this amazing little alien type of flower and the prettiest. I mean, I've grown it in blue, white, and it's like almost like a magenta color. It's so gorgeous. I don't see it other places. Your specialty flowers, your lisianthus, your ranunculus. Now, even though that those can be shipped in, they just aren't as good quality if they're shipped 1,000 miles as if you can get them from your neighbor. If there are farming practices that are especially meaningful to you, they might be important to your customer too. Do you practice regenerative farming methods? Do you practice no spray, low spray? A lot of imported flowers are treated with some pretty harmful chemicals. I try to avoid spraying anything. The only things that I use in the garden are things that are labeled as organic and that don't harm pollinators. Are you pollinator friendly? That's important to customers as well. So what does your business stand for? What growing practices are important to you? Share them with your customer. That is what can make you stand out from your competition. Another thing that can separate you from everybody else is the color choices. What colors do you grow and how do you arrange them? Arranging flowers and selling bouquets is very much an art. Everyone has their own style of bouquet making, and the more you create and the more you share, you will find that people that are drawn to the art that you create with your flowers. So using my farm as an example, something that really is important to me is the love and appreciation for local flowers. I think in this world of convenience that we live in, where we can have anything at any time, like just at our fingertips, it's so easy to get a little bit lost in it. With something I wanted with the naming of my farm, Wild and Wonder Filled, is I wanted to bring back that sense of wonder and never lose that. There's something so beautiful and nostalgic about appreciating local flowers in the time that they bloom and missing them when they're gone. Are these flowers as special if you can have them all the time whenever you want? Or is there something a little bit more magical about having that flower at its peak, appreciating it, like really celebrating its beauty, and then looking forward to it when it's gone, Personally, I think that is just, there's just really special, and it kind of like takes me back, you won't believe it, but I'm old enough to remember when things weren't so readily available. Like, we weren't constantly bombarded with everything that we could ever want all the time available to us, and things just felt like a little bit more special. So that is me. That is my farm. We are wild. I grow with environmentally friendly practices, and we are wonderful because we celebrate beauty in its time. Everyone kind of has to decide kind of what their own perspective is, and then that makes you unique, and then you will find the customers that resonate with that. All right, guys, that is it. Those are the 5 biggest mistakes that I made or I see other people making, and I really hope that it helps you in your own journey to starting a flower farm. Or maybe you've already started and you've made some of these mistakes, and now you don't have to feel alone. You don't have to feel alone. I'm right there. I did it too. And now we know better and we can do better, right? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave me a like down below. Go ahead and make sure you're subscribed. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.